Hello, my G's. I've got a retro sweep down FX sound today, which is like something I've never made before in Phase Plant. This one you can download for free if you like it. Just head over to my Patreon and on the public page where anyone can look and download stuff. It'll be on there. And it sounds like this. I've made a long MIDI region here, so it kind of is a sort of a 16 bar effect, like a kind of riser or sweep down. And I've actually made some macros so you can listen to it 3 times first and then I'll explain it. The first version is kind of without any pitch movement. Well, there is pitch movement, but without this we've got this really like kind of down sweeping or up sweeping pitch effects that we can use here. But firstly, this is the sort of flat version. So wonderfully sunk into the aquarium. And now we'll do the one where it goes down. We're going down into the tundra. Take me back from whence I came to the sound designer's cave. Then finally we've got the upward motion pitched version. Oh, lovely stuff. So the idea for this one was to create a sort of video gamey retro sound just using a square wave, and then a lot of the main pitch movement is just on a lovely little LFO here with this octaves up and down preset, which we'll look at in a second. And then we've got this whole sweeping motion where the whole effect essentially it kind of just, reverbs and delays itself out into the distance, which is lovely. So let's take off the LFOs and the effects, and I'll show you what I started with and the main way that the sound is created. So essentially, we've got a square in the analog section, okay? And the way that I got the pitch movement on it next was using an LFO and just selecting a preset, which is on here, the arpeggios, octaves up and down. And then I put it on 2/16 for the rate. So it's all done to the grid here. And that goes then, tracked that to the pitch here. And it's going up to 12. So it's a plus 12. So exactly an octave. So that's, kind of makes sense as that's what the preset says. So then it sounds like this. Okay, so we've started the pitch movement like that. Okay, now I've got another LFO that I'm going to use, which is a different speed. And this one is done off the grid because the speed of this one will change over time. It will get slower and slower. And the reason I do that off the grid is basically because when it then goes slower, it doesn't like jump to the next grid setting. It goes directly using the millisecond mode, So when we put that then on the sync mode here, which you can see, that's where it gets wonderful. Okay, that's where it gets, we get this kind of like extra little retro video game effect creeping up and down on the LFO, my G. And then, basically, a low-pass filter was applied to keep it a little bit less crazy in the high end. And the LFO is being moved by low pass, which is on our cutoff here again. And I've put the resonance up with the Q a little bit. and that's also on this cosine LFO movement. So as the filter opens up, the sink opens up, not in the kitchen. The sink in the kitchen is already open, and I've unblocked it yesterday, so that's fine. So the sink gives it that video game effect, which is cool, and the filter opens up a bit. Okay, and so that's the main sort of thing that's happening alongside this pitch movement on the LFO1 here, which is already just going the whole time, you know? So that's the whole kind of basis for the sound, and the rest of it is all enhancements now. So the global unison we use to add a bit of width. And then we're going to put on our big, juicy, long LFO that changes the whole sound over time. And this is tracked to a lot of things. I covered already all the automations from the first two main LFOs, but this one that's doing the slowly changing the sound over time is tracked to loads and loads of stuff. I might not name it all, but two of the things it goes on is the overall pitch again. So that here is how I've been able to make these macros where it will pitch down over time. And the other one is tracked to the shift here, which pitches it up over time. And I just had to do it separately on the shift and the semitones because it was easy. It made more sense to me in my head to track one to there and one to there, because the shift basically changes the pitch essentially in this case as well. So what else is this tracked to? Like I mentioned before, the speed of this cosine. So the speed of that kind of movement will get slightly slower. I've just backed it off like minus 6.9%, so it will just get a tiny bit slower over time. And then on lane 1, let's go and add in the first convolution reverb, which is the modern church. And it's filled with the Holy Spirit, of course, this one. So this one will go up 28.3% on the mix over time. So it starts off with just a little bit of reverb, about 5%. And it'll get more and more reverbed as we go on. And it'll also there's a bit of drive I've put on here. It's basically quite a subtle saturation asymmetric mode on the simple shapes in the shaper, and I've driven it a very small amount, like not too high. It says negative, but it's still actively driving the sound, and the drive comes off a little bit as we creep up. Okay, so that's lane 1. Lane 2, we get more interesting with our delay. So we've got a dual delay at 200 milliseconds. That's the default mode, nice and easy. And that gets mixed up over time quite a lot. It's about 61%. So it goes from 0 up to 61. Another convolution here to also just put it, just create some more harmonics. This one was gave a nice bit of high-end reverb, and that comes in over time. The garage ramp above. And then again, just a bit more reverb, the normal one this time. That one's going to go up to 36%. So I've basically used 3 different reverbs to like delay that to space the sound out over time, because they all have a different color to them. So I wanted to triple up on that. And there's a little extra dual delay at 550, so quite a long one, which doesn't modulate. It just has a tiny bit on the mix, so that the whole sound has like a little bit of extra delay always happening. I'm pretty sure I covered all of the bases there in terms of the modulations. So yeah, that's basically it then. That's the retro sweep effects, which you can use in any genre, of course. But I just wanted to do a bit of sound design to give myself a break from yesterday's Neurofunk bass. And I hope you guys will enjoy it. Feel free to use it in your projects. Feel free to copy along and use it, or just download it from Patreon for free. And there's a squared off wonderful thing that happens. Sorry, that made no sense. It's wonderful to have like a square and like mess with the pitch in such a way where you get this kind of video game sound, you know? Especially when it's fast. And of course, you don't have to do a square. You could do like a saw wave. There's many directions you could take this sound in, you know, but for the one that I created, I wanted it to be relatively smooth, and that was just the final result I settled upon. But you could take similar concepts and create any kind of crazy video game effects, sound noise, and turn it into a long sweeping down or sweeping up riser sound, something like that. Either way, I think you'll have a good time with Faceplant, my G's. Thank you Thank you any much for watching, and yeah, stick around tomorrow because we're going to have a wonderful new release from Sozin on the label tomorrow on Friday. And then there'll be a podcast the day after on Saturday, which is going to be sick because Sozin is a great producer, great guy, and he's a 61-year-old man, which is quite impressive to be making such good D&B at that age. I hope I can still make bangers when I'm 61 if I ever get there. If any of us ever get there at this rate. Anyway, okay, my G's, I'll stop there. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out. Much love. Ciao, ciao.